That candy your kid just ate? It contains a chemical linked to DNA damage. That bread you had for breakfast? It's made with an ingredient classified as a possible carcinogen by the World Health Organization. That soda in your fridge right now? It once contained the same chemical used to make your couch fireproof. These aren't fringe conspiracy claims. These are ingredients the European Union, Canada, Japan, Brazil, and dozens of other countries have looked at the science and said, no, absolutely not. Not in our food. But in America, they're not just legal, they're in almost everything you eat.
Today we're opening 7 food files that the American food industry would prefer stayed shut, and by the end of this video, you will never look at your grocery cart the same way again. Welcome to Food Files. Before we get into the 7 ingredients, you need to understand why this gap exists, because it's not an accident, it's a system.
In Europe, food regulation operates on something called the precautionary principle. The logic is simple. If there's credible scientific evidence that an ingredient could be harmful, it gets restricted or banned. The burden of proof is on the company to demonstrate safety before the ingredient reaches your plate.
In America, the system works in reverse. Here, a chemical is considered innocent until proven guilty. The burden falls on regulators or the public to prove that something is dangerous after it's already in the food supply, but it gets worse. In 1958, Congress created a category called GRAS, generally recognized as safe. It was designed as a narrow exception for obvious things: salt, vinegar, baking soda, ingredients that humanity has consumed for centuries. But over time, the food industry discovered they could exploit GRAS as a loophole. Instead of submitting new chemicals to the FDA for rigorous safety review, companies could simply hire their own scientists, declare their own chemicals safe, and add them to your food, sometimes without even telling the FDA. How bad has it gotten? According to the Environmental Working Group, since the year 2000, nearly 99% of new food chemicals introduced into the American food supply were green-lighted by the food and chemical industry itself, not by the FDA. Out of 766 new chemicals, companies petitioned the FDA for proper review only 10 times. The other 756 went through the GRAS loophole.
And experts estimate that over 1,000 additional chemicals entered the food supply without the companies even notifying the FDA at all. The result? An estimated 10,000 food additives are approved for use in the United States. The European Union allows 411. That's the system. Now, let's open the files. File number 7. Titanium dioxide. The white lie. Titanium dioxide. It sounds industrial because it is industrial. This white powder is used in paint, it's used in sunscreen, it's used in plastics and paper. And in America, it's also used in your food. Known in the food industry as E171, titanium dioxide serves one purpose in food. It makes things whiter and shinier. It gives candy that glossy coating. It brightens your frosting. It whitens your powdered donuts. You'll find it in Skittles, Sour Patch Kids, Hostess cupcakes, Hostess powdered donuts, certain ice cream brands, chewing gum, even coffee creamers. So why did Europe ban it? In May 2021, the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, published an updated safety assessment. Their conclusion was unambiguous. The panel stated that titanium dioxide can no longer be considered safe as a food additive. The critical concern? They could not rule out genotoxicity, meaning titanium dioxide particles may have the ability to damage your DNA. Let me say that again. Europe's top food safety scientists concluded they could not rule out that this ingredient damages human DNA, and they pulled it from the food supply. By January 2022, the European Commission formally banned titanium dioxide in all food products across the EU. The ban took full effect by August 2022. In America, it's still in the candy aisle. Right now, today. File number 6. Potassium bromate. The bread you shouldn't be eating. If you've ever wondered why bread in Europe tastes different from bread in America, this is part of the reason. And it's not because Europeans are better bakers. It's because American bread contains something their bread legally cannot. Potassium bromate is a chemical dough conditioner. It makes bread rise higher, fluffier, and more uniform. It gives commercial bread that perfect, consistent texture American consumers expect. It's also classified as a possible human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, which is part of the World Health Organization. Research has linked potassium bromate to kidney damage, thyroid problems, and cancer in laboratory animals. The science was concerning enough that the European Union banned it from food products back in 1990. That's over 35 years ago. Since then, Canada banned it, Brazil banned it, Argentina banned it, India banned it, China banned it. In the United States, potassium bromate is estimated to be present in over 100 bread products on American shelves. It's in fast food buns, it's in sandwich bread, it's in products millions of Americans consume daily. There's something unsettling about the fact that when you bite into a sandwich in Paris, the bread is made one way, and when you bite into the same brand's sandwich in New York, it contains a chemical the rest of the developed world considers too dangerous to eat. File number 5. Artificial food dyes. The rainbow of risk. Here's a fact that might ruin your next trip to the grocery store. In Europe, Fanta orange soda is actually made with real fruit juice and colored naturally. In America, Fanta contains 0% fruit juice. Its color comes from petroleum-derived synthetic dyes, red 40 and yellow 6. Same brand, same logo, completely different product. And the reason is simple. Europe won't allow what America puts in theirs. Artificial food dyes, including red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, blue 2, and green 3, are derived from petroleum. Yes, petroleum, the same base material used to make gasoline. These dyes are used in cereals, candies, sports drinks, macaroni and cheese, baked goods, and thousands of other products. The European Union hasn't fully banned all of these dyes, but they've done something powerful. They require warning labels. Any food in Europe containing these dyes must carry a label stating the product may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. That warning alone was enough to make most manufacturers reformulate their European products with natural alternatives. In America, no warnings, no labels, no reformulations required. But change is starting to happen, slowly. In January 2025, the FDA finally moved to ban red dye number 3 from food products, a dye that had been linked to cancer in animals for decades. Enforcement begins in 2027 for food and 2028 for drugs. One dye, after decades. Meanwhile, the others remain untouched at the federal level. California has stepped up, becoming the first state to ban 6 synthetic dyes from school foods. And in 2025, roughly 75 bills targeting food dyes were introduced across 37 states. The momentum is building, but the federal response remains years behind. File number 4. BHA and BHT. The preservatives in your breakfast. Open your pantry right now and grab a box of cereal, a bag of chips, or a package of cake mix. Check the ingredients list. There's a good chance you'll find 2 acronyms, BHA and BHT. Butylated hydroxyanisole and butylated hydroxytoluene. These are synthetic preservatives added to food for one primary purpose: to extend shelf life. They slow down the oxidation process that causes fats and oils to go rancid. From a business perspective, they're incredibly useful. Your cereal stays fresh on the shelf for months longer. From a health perspective, the picture is different. Growing animal research has linked both BHA and BHT to an increased risk of cancer. The evidence was significant enough for the European Union to ban both chemicals from food products. The IARC has classified BHA as reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. Where will you find them in American food? Kellogg's cereals, Jiffy corn muffin mix, Stouffer's frozen meals, Pillsbury products, various corn chips and snack foods. Here's what makes this one particularly frustrating. Natural alternatives exist. Vitamin E, rosemary extract, and other natural antioxidants can serve the same preservative function. The reason companies use BHA and BHT instead? They're cheaper. File number 3. RBST, the hormone in your milk. Every morning, millions of American families pour a glass of milk, spoon yogurt into a bowl, or slice cheese for a sandwich. And many of them have no idea that the dairy they're consuming may contain a synthetic growth hormone that both Europe and Canada banned years ago. Recombinant bovine somatotropin, known as RBST or RBGH, is a genetically engineered hormone injected into dairy cows to increase their milk production. It works. Cows treated with RBST produce more milk, but the cost of that increased production is significant. In cows, RBST has been linked to higher rates of mastitis, painful udder infections, increased lameness, and reduced reproductive health. The welfare concerns alone were enough for the European Union and Canada to prohibit the hormone. Regarding human health effects, the debate continues. Some studies suggest RBST-treated milk contains higher levels of insulin-like growth factor 1, which has been associated in some research with certain cancers. Regulatory bodies disagree on the significance of this finding. But here's what's revealing. Even within America, major companies have taken a stand. Ben & Jerry's has publicly and explicitly opposed the use of RBST. Many organic dairy brands prominently label their products as RBST-free. When American companies themselves are distancing from an ingredient that's banned in other countries, that tells you something about the state of the system. File number 2. Brominated vegetable oil, flame retardant in your soda. For decades, if you cracked open a can of Mountain Dew, you were drinking something that had a surprising connection to your living room furniture. Not the high-fructose corn syrup, not the caffeine. The brominated vegetable oil. BVO is an emulsifier. It keeps the citrus flavoring evenly distributed throughout the drink so it doesn't separate. Sounds harmless enough, but here's where it gets unsettling. Bromine, the key element in BVO, is the same chemical element used as a flame retardant in furniture, electronics, and building materials. The same substance designed to prevent your couch from catching fire was being used as an ingredient in American beverages. Research has linked bromine exposure to thyroid dysfunction, neurological problems, memory loss, and impaired coordination. European countries recognized these risks and banned BVO from food products years ago. In the United States, BVO had a strange regulatory journey. The FDA actually declared BVO was no longer generally recognized as safe all the way back in 1970. But instead of banning it outright, the agency allowed its continued use on an interim basis. That interim status lasted over 50 years. It took until 2024 for the FDA to officially revoke the authorization for BVO in food. PepsiCo had already removed it from Mountain Dew in 2020, after years of consumer pressure and petitions. Think about that timeline. The FDA itself said it wasn't safe in 1970. The ingredient stayed in American sodas for another 5 decades. File number 1. Azodicarbonamide, the yoga mat chemical. We've saved the most disturbing file for last. If you've ever walked into a Subway restaurant and noticed that distinct bread smell, you were smelling something that has more in common with the floor of a yoga studio than a sandwich shop. Azodicarbonamide, let's call it ADA because that name is a mouthful, is a chemical dough conditioner used to make bread stronger, more elastic, and more uniform. In the United States, it's been used in commercial bread products for years, including, most famously, Subway's bread. It's also the same chemical compound used to manufacture yoga mats, shoe soles, and foam insulation. Now, the fact that a chemical has industrial uses doesn't automatically make it dangerous in food. Context matters. But here's what does matter. When ADA breaks down during baking, it produces two byproducts: urethane and semicarbazide. Both are classified as potential carcinogens. ADA itself is also a known respiratory sensitizer, meaning it can trigger or worsen asthma. The European Union banned ADA from food and from food contact plastics, not just from the food itself, from the packaging that touches food. That's how seriously Europe takes this chemical. In 2014, this issue went viral when a food blogger petitioned Subway to remove ADA from their bread. The petition gathered hundreds of thousands of signatures. Subway eventually reformulated. But the chemical remains legal in the United States, and it's present in numerous other commercial bread products sold across the country. 7 files. 7 ingredients that the rest of the developed world decided were too risky for their citizens. 7 ingredients that remain part of daily American life. But here's the thing. This story isn't just about what's wrong, it's also about what's changing. In January 2026, the US government released completely overhauled dietary guidelines for the first time in decades. The message was simple: eat real food. The new guidelines explicitly warn against ultra-processed foods and added sugars. A new food pyramid has replaced the old My Plate diagram, emphasizing protein, whole foods, and healthy fats. At the state level, change is accelerating. 37 states introduced food safety legislation in 2025. California has defined ultra-processed foods and is phasing them out of schools. West Virginia banned 7 synthetic dyes. And food companies are paying attention. PepsiCo and Kraft Heinz have announced plans to remove artificial ingredients. So, what can you do right now? Read your labels. Not the marketing claims on the front of the package, the actual ingredient list on the back. If you see titanium dioxide, potassium bromate, BHA, BHT, artificial dyes with numbers after them, or any ingredient you can't pronounce, consider whether there's a cleaner alternative. Choose whole foods when possible. The simplest rule: the fewer ingredients, the better. Support brands that have already reformulated. Many American companies now offer products that meet European standards voluntarily. And most importantly, stay informed. Because knowledge is the one ingredient the food industry can't take away from you. If this video changed how you think about what's on your plate, share it with someone you care about. Subscribe to Food Files, because this is just the first file we're opening. In the next video, we're taking a closer look at the healthy foods you think are actually healthy, but some of them are worse than junk food. See you there.